The distress signal lasted 11 seconds. Then it stopped. Commander Yara Solis did not wait for it to start again. She was already out of her chair when Lieutenant Owen Cole pulled up the source coordinates on the main screen. He had been on her bridge for 2 years. He knew better than to ask if she was sure. "Origin?" she said. "Deep pocket. Sector 9 fringe. Right at the edge of our patrol range." "Who sent it?" Cole's fingers moved fast across the panel. "Registry marks it as a civilian hauler. 14 crew. Flagged under the Halcyon Trade Cooperative." "Halcyon?" She said the name once. Flat. The Halcyon were a small species, quiet people, good traders. They had been paying the Velkari a 30% levy on every cargo run through their home corridor for the last 60 years. Not because they wanted to, because the Velkari had shown them, once, very clearly, what happened to small species who did not pay. 3 Velkari warship signatures in the same grid, Cole said, moving parallel to the hauler's last heading. Yara looked at the screen. The 3 Velkari ship icons were not chasing the hauler. They did not need to chase. They were simply moving alongside it, like 3 large things escorting one small thing that had nowhere else to go. "How long before they reach Halcyon territorial space?" she asked. "At current speed?" Cole checked. 40 minutes. "How long before we reach them?" 37. She sat back down. "Then we have time," she said. "Open a direct channel to the Velkari lead ship." Cole opened it. The face on the screen belonged to a Velkari fleet officer named Drev Sol. She had seen his file. He was considered, within Velkari naval culture, a moderate. That meant he preferred intimidation over direct action when intimidation was sufficient. It was not a compliment. "Commander Solis," he said. His translator rendered his voice with the particular flat cadence that Velkari speech always carried. Not aggressive, simply absent of any signal that the other person's words would change what he had already decided. "You are outside your designated patrol corridor. I go where the signals go," she said. "The signal you are referencing has been resolved. There is no emergency. Then you won't mind if I confirm that myself." A pause. Drev Sol had 7 sensory fronds, the way all Velkari did. 4 of them shifted slightly. Her cultural briefing said that particular movement indicated what translated closest to mild irritation paired with recalculation. "Commander," he said, "this is a Velkari commercial enforcement action. A Halcyon vessel has outstanding levy payments. We are escorting them to a processing station for account reconciliation." "Account reconciliation," she repeated. "Correct. Is the Halcyon captain aware they are going to a processing station?" Another pause, longer this time. "They have been informed. I would like to speak with them." "That is not—" "I would like," she said again, in the same voice, "to speak with the Halcyon captain." Drev Sol's fronds moved through 2 more configurations. Then, without another word, the screen switched feeds. The Halcyon captain was a small female, with pale blue-green skin and large dark eyes that many species found unsettling until they got used to them. Her name, the registry said, was Pirat. She looked at Yara through the screen, the way people look at something they want desperately, but do not believe is real. "Captain Pirat," Yara said, "are you and your crew safe?" The Halcyon captain blinked. Once, twice. Then she said, in heavily accented Congress standard, "We are fine." "Are you going to the processing station voluntarily?" A longer pause. Pirat's eyes moved to the right of the screen briefly, then back. "We are fine," she said again. Yara nodded slowly. "All right." She cut the feed. "Cole," she said. "Yes, Commander. Get me the Halcyon Trade Cooperative's legal representative on record. That will take about 20 minutes to locate." "Start now." She pulled up the nav screen. "And increase our speed to intercept range." Cole was quiet for a moment. "We will arrive before the Velkari reach the processing station," he said. "That is the intention." Drev Sol will file a patrol interference report with the Galactic Congress. He can file whatever he likes. She did not look up from the nav screen. "Get me that legal representative." Cole got the representative in 18 minutes. The legal contact for the Halcyon Trade Cooperative was a compact middle-aged man named Oliver Grant, who operated out of a Congress satellite office and had the specific tired look of a person who spent his working life fighting cases that should not exist. "Commander Solis," he said when his face appeared on screen. I was wondering when someone was going to call me about this. You know about the Pirette hauler? We have 14 active levy enforcement cases in Sector 9 right now. The Pirette hauler is one of them. He pulled up something on his end. The outstanding levy claim is disputed. We filed the dispute with Congress 32 days ago. Under Congress trade protocols, disputed claims are supposed to be frozen pending review. But they are not frozen. The Valkyrie do not recognize the dispute filing, Grant said. They say the Halcyon Cooperative submitted it through an improper channel. Did they? No. He said it simply, without heat, the way a person says a fact they have said too many times. The filing was correct. The Valkyrie simply chose not to accept it. Yara looked at the nav screen. 14 minutes to intercept. Mr. Grant, she said, I need you to resend that dispute filing right now. Direct channel to the Congress Trade Arbitration Office. Mark it urgent. Copy it to the Valkyrie Fleet Command, the Congress Sector 9 Oversight Officer, and to me. Grant blinked. I can do that. It will not change the Valkyrie's position. It will change mine, she said. Send it. He sent it. She had 11 minutes left when the document arrived in her queue. She forwarded it to Drevsol's ship without a message attached. He hailed her 40 seconds later. Commander Solis, he said. The document you forwarded has no legal standing in this enforcement action. Mr. Grant disagrees, she said. So does the Congress Trade Arbitration Office, which logged the resent filing 4 minutes ago, and has opened a priority review. She paused. Which means that if you take the Pirette hauler to your processing station right now, you are doing it while a Congress priority review is actively open on the case. Drevsol's fronds moved. The Congress review process does not suspend enforcement. It also does not authorize it, she said. And I have the filing documentation confirming the dispute was properly submitted 32 days ago, which means you have been aware of it for 32 days. She tilted her head slightly. How does that look to the Congress Oversight Officer who just received a copy? A long silence. She waited. She was good at waiting. Behind her she could feel Cole not moving, not breathing too loudly, the whole bridge running at a slightly lower volume than usual. We will hold the escort pending review, Drevsol said. I appreciate that, she said. This is not finished. No, she agreed. It is not. She cut the channel. The bridge exhaled. Cole said, very quietly, we should get a commendation for that. We should get lunch, she said. Find out if the Halcyon captain wants an escort back to her lane. Pirette did want an escort. She said very little when Yara came back on the channel, but she held eye contact for a long moment before she said, in careful Congress standard, thank you. 2 words. The kind that took something to say when you had been told for 60 years that no one was coming. Yara nodded once. Then she closed the channel and watched the Halcyon hauler begin its course correction toward home. Cole, she said. Commander. Log everything. Every timestamp. The legal filing, the Valkyrie response, the Congress review number, everything. Already doing it. Good. She looked at the nav screen. Because Drevsol is right. This is not finished. She meant the hauler. She meant Sector 9. She meant the 30% levy and 60 years of small species paying for the privilege of moving their own cargo through space that did not belong to the Valkyrie. But she also meant something larger. She had been meaning it for 18 months. Since Mirith, since the day the Galactic Congress added a new notation to its permanent record and the Valkyrie fleet moved away from a single human warship that had no business still being functional. The rule was written down now. The rule existed. The question was whether it had teeth outside a battle. She was going to find out. She did not know, sitting in her chair watching a small blue-green hauler move toward home, that finding out was going to take her somewhere much further than Sector 9. Or that it was going to start with a message from a planet she had never heard of, sent by a person she had never met, written in a language her translator had to work for. It arrived 3 hours later. She almost did not open it. She opened it. The message was short, 12 sentences. Her translator flagged 4 of them as containing idiom structures it could not fully render, and offered approximate meanings in brackets. The sender identified themselves as Elder Voss of the Kaylee people, from a small world called Kalith in a system that did not appear on standard Congress navigation charts, because it was not a Congress member. The message said, in part, "We have heard what happened at Mirith. We did not believe it when we heard it. We have now verified it through 3 separate sources. We are writing to you because we do not know who else to write to. The Velkari have given us a deadline. They call it a courtesy. We have 11 days. She read it twice. Then she looked at the nav screen. Calith was 42 hours away at full drive. She called Reyes. It was the middle of his night cycle. He answered on the 4th signal, which meant he had been sleeping, which meant she was about to ruin his week. Yara, he said, I need authorization to alter our patrol course. A pause. Where? Calith. A longer pause. She could hear him thinking. She had known Marco Reyes long enough to hear the shape of his silences. The Kali are not a Congress member species, he said. No. We have no treaty obligation. Marco, she said. He stopped. They have 11 days, she said. And they wrote to me. She heard him breathe out slowly, the sound of a man who had done the math once already, and was doing it again, knowing the answer was not going to change. I will need to brief the council, he said. I know. They will want options. Not just the aggressive one. I will give them options, she said. I will just make sure the options are honest. Another silence. Then, how long to Calith at full drive? 42 hours. You are already moving, are you not? She was already moving. I will brief the council, he said. Don't blow anything up before I do. I make no promises, she said. Yara. I make no promises, Marco. You know that. He did know that. He authorized the course change anyway. She had 42 hours, and 11 Velkari days, and a planet full of people she had never heard of, who had written to her, because they did not know who else to write to. She spent the first hour of the transit reading everything the Congress database had on the Kali people. It was not much. They were small, quiet, good at growing things and building things and keeping to themselves. They had avoided contact with most of the larger species for 300 years, not because they were unfriendly, but because they had watched what happened to species that got too friendly with the wrong neighbors. 300 years of careful, quiet survival. And now a courtesy window. She closed the file. She looked at the star field outside the viewport. 41 hours and 52 minutes to Calith. She went to find Cole and tell him to get some sleep while he could. He was already reviewing the Kali database files at his station. He looked up when she walked in. 11 days, he said. 11 days. And we are 42 hours out. Yes. He looked back at the files. That gives us 9 days to do something. Yes. What are we going to do? She thought about Pirate's eyes. The way she had said thank you, like the words cost something. The way 60 years of being told you are small makes 2 words feel enormous. Something honest, she said. Cole nodded slowly. All right. He went back to the files. She went back to the bridge. 41 hours and 49 minutes. The drive hummed beneath her feet the way it always did, constant and low, the sound of a ship that had been pushed past its expected limits and rebuilt itself anyway, plate by plate, weld by weld, into something that was not supposed to still be here. Still here. Still moving. She thought Pirate might understand that. She thought Elder Voss might too, if they had 11 days left and had still chosen to write a letter. She pulled up the response screen and began to type. The Calith system appeared on the long-range sensor board as a pale yellow dot surrounded by 3 orbiting bodies, none of them large, all of them unremarkable to a scanner looking for strategic value. To a scanner looking for life, it was different. Owen Cole marked it as they crossed the 30-hour approach threshold. He pulled up the surface composition data and set it next to the atmospheric readings and spent a quiet moment looking at both. Temperate, he said. Green. Lots of water. He paused. Looks like a nice place to live. Yara did not answer. She was looking at the other reading, the one that sat in the upper right corner of the sensor board, quiet and unwelcome. 3 Velkari warships in stationary orbit above Calith. Not moving. Not engaging. Just there. The way a locked door is there when you reach for the handle and it does not turn. How long have they been in position? She asked. Cole ran the calculation. Based on their drive cooldown signature, about 8 days. 8 days, which meant they had been there since before the Kali sent the message, which meant the courtesy window was not 11 days from the message. It was 11 days from when the ships arrived. She did the math. 3 days left. not 11. She felt something move through her that she did not have a comfortable name for. It was not quite anger. It was the thing that lived just below anger, the thing that waited there, familiar and ready, the thing she had reached for at Mirith, and before Mirith, and at Kepler, on the days she did not talk about. "Get me Elder Voss," she said. The channel took 4 minutes to connect. The Cayley communications infrastructure was old, built for local use, not calibrated for long-range contact with a ship approaching from deep space. When the signal finally came through, it was slightly blurred at the edges, like a photograph taken in low light. Elder Voss was not what she had expected. She was not sure what she had expected. Something more formal, perhaps. Someone who looked like a leader. Voss looked like a farmer who had been called into a meeting he did not have time for, but came to anyway, because the meeting mattered. He was broad across the shoulders, gray at the temples, with the kind of hands that spent more time outdoors than indoors. His eyes were a deep brown that reminded her of something she could not immediately name. "Commander Solis," he said. His Congress standard was slow but clean, each word placed carefully, the way someone speaks a language they learned from books rather than from people. "You came. I said I would. Many say they will." He did not say it as an accusation, just a fact, stated plainly, from a long enough history of being told things that did not happen. "I am glad you are real." She thought that was a strange way to phrase it. She understood it completely. "Elder Voss," she said, "I need to correct something. The deadline you gave me in your message was 11 days, but the Valkyrie ships have been in orbit for 8 days. She watched his expression. It did not change in the way she expected. No surprise, no alarm. "We know," he said. "You knew the deadline was 3 days, not 11. We knew when we wrote to you that you might not arrive in time." He folded his hands on the table in front of him. He had a table, she noticed, a wooden one, which struck her as a strange detail to notice. "We wrote anyway." She was quiet for a moment. "What do the Valkyrie want?" she asked. "They want our mineral rights," he said. "There is a deposit beneath our northern continent, corellium ore, enough to supply their shipbuilding program for 40 years. He said it the way a person describes something that was once their life and now belongs to a category they are still adjusting to. They want exclusive extraction rights for 100 years. They want a workforce levy, which means they want our people to do the mining, and they want it formalized in a treaty that would make Calith a Valkyrie protectorate." "A protectorate," she said. "Which means," he said, "that we would no longer be Calith. We would be a Valkyrie mining station that used to be Calith." She looked at the 3 warship icons on the sensor board. "What happens in 3 days if you do not sign?" He looked at her steadily. "They have made this clear." She did not ask him to say it out loud. She had read enough history to know what the Valkyrie did when a courtesy window closed without a signature. The 8th repository had a whole wing for it. Quiet corridors, dim lighting, placards with species names and dates. "Do you have a defense force?" she asked. "We have 12 ships," he said. "Cargo vessels with emergency response systems. They are not warships." "No military vessels at all?" "We have not needed them," he said. "For 300 years, we have stayed quiet, kept to ourselves, traded carefully." He paused. "It appears that is not enough." She did not tell him that it was never going to be enough. He already knew. "Elder Voss," she said, "I am one ship. Yes. I cannot promise you that one ship changes what is coming." "No," he said. "But one ship changes what is possible." He looked at her through the blurred connection, through 41 light hours of space, with the expression of a man who had spent 300 years being careful, and had decided, sometime in the last 8 days, that being careful was no longer the available option. "At Mirith," he said, "you were one ship." She was quiet. "You were one ship," he said again. "And the whole galaxy heard the broadband channel you opened." She understood then why he had written to her. Not because he thought one ship could defeat 3 warships in orbit above his world, not because he had run the numbers and found a favorable outcome, because he had heard the broadband, because 14 other species had heard it. Because he had understood something about that moment, that the Valkyrie ambassador had understood too late, standing in front of 1,100 ships that had not done what 1,100 ships were supposed to do. It was not about winning the engagement. It was about what the galaxy saw when the engagement happened. "Open a broadband channel," he said. It was not a request. It was a man who had been quiet for 300 years, asking for something with every quiet year behind it. Let them watch. Let them all watch. Whatever happens. She pulled up the nav screen. 31 hours to Calith orbit. 3 days on the Velkari clock. She did the math. She had time to arrive. She had time to position. She did not have time for reinforcements because Reyes had nothing in range, and she had not asked. She had not asked because she had known the math before she altered course, and she had altered course anyway, the way she always did, the way the archivist had spent 43 years trying to put a name to. "Cole," she said. "Commander. Open the broadband." He was quiet for a fraction of a second, long enough for her to know he understood what she was asking, long enough for the crew to feel the shift in the room. Then he opened it. Every frequency, every species in the quadrant, the same thing she had done at Mirith, the signal that reached 11 other species, and an archivist who had stopped cataloging and started watching. "This is Commander Yara Solis," she said. "Weir's persistence. We are on approach to the Calith system. We are 31 hours out." She looked at the 3 stationary warship icons. "To the Velkari fleet in orbit above Calith, you have issued a courtesy ultimatum to the Kali people, a people who have done nothing to you, a people who have been here for 300 years, living quietly, building what they built, growing what they grew, asking nothing of you." She paused. "I am asking you to withdraw your ships, and your deadline. I am asking once, clearly, on an open channel, so that everyone in this quadrant understands what was asked and what was answered." She cut the transmission. The bridge was very quiet. Cole said, without turning around, "They will respond." "I know." Drevsol filed that patrol interference report. "I know. Reyes is going to receive a formal complaint from Velkari Fleet Command before we reach orbit." "I know, Cole." He turned around. He had a long face that was not built for drama, but something in it was very serious. "Are you all right?" She thought about the question honestly. She thought about 61 names. She thought about Pire saying thank you. She thought about a wooden table and a blurred video feed, and a man with farmer's hands who had written to her, because he did not know who else to write to. "No," she said. It was the most honest thing she had said in weeks. "But we are going anyway," she said. "Yes," Cole said. "We are." 31 hours. The Velkari response came in 40 minutes. It came not from Drevsol, who was still holding the Halcyon escort per the Congress review, but from a ship she had not encountered before. A larger one, a fleet command vessel called the Velkari designation, that her translator rendered as the absolute authority, which she noted was not a modest name for a ship. The officer on the screen was a Velkari female, which was less common in their military structure. Her name was Commander Rethva. She had all 7 fronds. They were not moving at all, which the briefing said indicated one thing: complete certainty that the outcome of this conversation was already determined. "Commander Solis," Rethva said, "we have received your broadband transmission." "Good," Yara said. "You are aware that Calith is not a Congress member state." "I am aware, and that your patrol authorization does not extend to this system." "I have been authorized to respond to a distress signal," she said, "which I received from Calith 12 hours before you and I are having this conversation." The Kale did not register that signal through Congress channels. "They did not need to," she said. "A distress signal is a distress signal in every language." Rethva's fronds remained still. "Commander," she said, "I want to be direct with you. What happened at Mirith was a significant event. Our fleet command has reviewed it extensively. We do not deny that the engagement did not proceed as projected." A pause. "But you should understand that we have also reviewed the parameters of that engagement and identified several contributing factors that are not present here, such as, at Mirith, your Admiral Reyes repositioned significant assets to your support. You had backup." Rethva looked at her steadily. "Here, you do not. We have checked the position of every Galactic Congress vessel in range. You have 1 ship. We have 3 in orbit, and 2 more inbound. There is no broadband channel that changes that arithmetic." Yara looked at her. Then she looked at the sensor board. 2 more ships inbound. She had not seen that before. She pulled up the trajectory and confirmed it. 5 Velkari warships, total, by the time she reached Calith orbit. 1 persistence. Rethva was not wrong about the arithmetic. You are right, Yara said. I do not have backup. Rethva waited. But you have a problem I do not have, Yara said. And what is that? The broadband is still open, she said. Everything you just said is being heard by 14 species right now, including the part where you told me your arithmetic. She let that sit for a moment. At Mireth, the ambassador offered us a courtesy. He was certain of his numbers. He was correct about his numbers, and none of it mattered, because the archivist was watching, and 11 other species were watching, and what they saw was not an arithmetic problem. She looked at Rethva directly. What they saw was a choice. Rethva's fronds moved for the first time. Just slightly. Just enough. You are doing it again, Rethva said. It was not quite an accusation. It was not quite admiration. It was something in between, that did not have a name in either of their languages. Yes, Yara said. It will not end the same way. Maybe not. She did not look away. But it will end in a way that everyone watching remembers. And you know that. That is why you told me your ships are inbound. That is why you are talking to me, instead of simply proceeding. She paused. Because you are not certain what happens to the Velkari in the story that gets told afterward. A very long silence. Then Rethva said, I will need to contact Fleet Command. Take your time, Yara said. I have 30 hours. She cut the channel. She sat very still for a moment. Cole was looking at the sensor board. 2 more inbound, he said quietly. I know. That is 5 ships. I can count, Cole. He was quiet for a moment. I am not questioning whether we should be here, he said. I know you are not. I just want you to know that I am aware of what 5 ships means. She looked at him. He was 30 years old. He had been on the Persistence for 2 years. He had been at Mireth. He had seen what the Velkari fleet looked like from the wrong side of the numbers, and he had stayed at his station the whole time, voice controlled, hands steady, doing his job. What does 5 ships mean to you? She asked. He thought about it seriously. It means they are not sure 1 ship is not enough, he said. Otherwise they would have sent one. She looked at him for a moment. Then she almost smiled. Get some sleep, she said. We need you sharp when we arrive. He went. She stayed on the bridge. 29 hours and 40 minutes. The broadband was still open. She thought about what Rethva had said. You are doing it again. Not a warning. Not a threat. An observation from someone who had studied the Mireth record and understood what she was looking at and was not entirely sure what to do with the understanding. She thought about the archivist's corridor, the new wing for species that broke the model. She pulled up the comm system and opened a separate channel, a private one. It went to a satellite office in the Congress hub. It connected in 6 minutes. Oliver Grant answered, looking more tired than the last time, but not surprised to see her face. Commander Solis, he said. Mr. Grant, she said. I need to know about Calith's legal status under Congress resource extraction protocols. He blinked. Calith. Non-member world. Yes. Does non-member status affect their rights under the Congress Natural Resources Protection Covenant? He leaned forward. She could see him pulling up files on his end. The Natural Resources Protection Covenant, he said slowly, applies to all inhabited worlds within the Congress-recognized zone of interstellar common space. Membership is not a requirement for coverage. He paused. Calith is within that zone. Corellium ore, she said, forcibly extracted from a non-consenting inhabited world. What does the covenant say? He was quiet for a long moment, reading. Unauthorized extraction from a covered world, he said, constitutes a Category 1 violation of the Congress Resource Covenant. Subject to immediate injunction and censure. He looked up. No species has ever been formally charged under this provision. No species has ever had a persistence parked in orbit while someone tried to file it, she said. Can you file it? I can file it in about 40 minutes, he said, if you send me the documentation supporting the Velkari extraction demand. Check your queue, she said. I sent it 20 minutes ago. He checked. He found it. He started to file. She had 29 hours and a legal brief, and 5 Velkari ships, and 1 broadband channel that the whole quadrant was listening to. She thought that was probably enough. She was not entirely sure, but she was going anyway. Calith came up on the visual feed as something she had not expected. She had read the sensor data. She knew it was temperate. green, covered in water. She knew what the numbers said. Numbers did not prepare you for the color of it. The particular blue-green of the oceans from high orbit, the way the cloud cover moved across the surface in slow, indifferent patterns, the way the light from the system's pale yellow star caught the northern continent and made it look for one moment like something cupped in an open hand. Voss had said they had been here 300 years. She believed it. It looked like a place that had been lived in with care. The 3 Valkyrie warships were in high orbit, maintaining position. The 2 inbound ships had arrived 6 hours earlier than projected, which meant they had pushed their drives. That meant someone in Valkyrie Fleet Command was treating this as urgent. She noted that, and said nothing about it to Cole. The Absolute Authority had held its position 12,000 kilometers above Calith's equatorial plane. Rethva had sent one message in the 29 hours since their conversation. It said, "We are awaiting clarification from Fleet Command. Hold your approach." Yara had not held her approach. She had sent back, "I will maintain standard protocol spacing when I reach orbit. That is the courtesy I extend." Rethva had not responded to that. Now the Persistence moved into orbital range, and the sensor board lit up with 5 contact signatures and 1 Kaylee surface transponder, and about 14 other signals that were not ships, that were not weapons, that were simply frequencies from across the quadrant, where species had tuned in to the broadband she had opened 30 hours ago and left open. Cole had the count. 19 species. 19 separate monitoring feeds. She did not say anything about that either. She opened the channel to Elder Voss. He was in the same room. The same wooden table. He looked like he had not slept, which she understood. 3 days that turned into 2 days that turned into hours had a way of doing that to a person. "You are here," he said. "I said I would be. The Valkyrie commander contacted us this morning," he said. "Rethva. She told us that the presence of a Galactic Congress warship does not alter our obligations under the courtesy agreement." "What did you say?" "I told her we had not signed the courtesy agreement," he said. "I told her we had received it, and we were responding to it through the appropriate channels." Yara looked at him. "You have been talking to Oliver Grant," she said. "Mr. Grant has been very helpful," Voss said. "He explained the Congress Resource Covenant to me. He explained the difference between receiving a demand and accepting one." A small pause. "I have been careful for 300 years, Commander. I know how to read a document." She felt something that was not quite a smile. "The filing is formally registered with the Congress Resource Protection Body," she said, "as of 6 hours ago. The Valkyrie demand for Corellium extraction rights is now subject to a Category 1 Covenant review. They cannot legally proceed with extraction until the review is complete." "And the deadline?" he asked. "The deadline was for a treaty signature," she said. "They can still demand the signature, but extracting without it, and without the review resolution, puts them in violation of Congress law." She paused. "Which they know." "Will it stop them?" She was honest. "I do not know. There are 5 warships above your world. They did not come here to be stopped by paperwork." She looked at the sensor board. "But they also did not come here expecting paperwork, or a broadband channel, or 19 species watching, or me." She looked back at him. "Everything that has happened in the last 30 hours is something they did not expect. And every hour they hold position without acting, the record grows longer. The watching list grows longer. The story that gets told afterward grows more expensive for them." He folded his hands on the wooden table. "You are making the cost visible," he said. "Yes. That is what you did at Mirath." "Yes." He was quiet for a moment. Outside the window behind him, she could see sky. Blue-green sky, matching the oceans. A bird passed through the frame, small and fast, and was gone. "What do you need from me?" he asked. "Keep talking," she said. "Not to me, to the broadband. Tell them who you are. Tell them what you built here. Tell them what 300 years of quiet looks like." She paused. "The Valkyrie are counting on you being unknown. Unknown things are easy to make disappear. You need to be known." He looked at her for a long moment. "I am not a speaker," he said. "I am a farmer." "Speak like a farmer, then," she said. "Speak like a man who knows what he grew, and where he grew it, and how long it took." He nodded slowly. "All right." She opened the secondary broadband channel and connected it to Voss's comm system. His voice, when he began to speak, was low and careful, and absolutely without performance. He spoke about Calith the way the broadband briefing said he would speak, she realized, like a man reading from the longest text he knew by heart. He spoke about the northern continent, where the Corellium ore was. He said there were 7 towns up there. He named them. He said the oldest one had been founded by his great-grandmother's generation. He said they made a kind of bread in that town that he could not describe accurately, but that his children had grown up eating. She watched the listening feeds on the secondary screen while he spoke. 21 species now. Then 23. Then Rethva opened a channel. She appeared on screen looking, for the first time, as though the arithmetic she had cited was producing results she had not budgeted for. Commander Solis, she said. Commander Rethva. Fleet Command has reviewed the situation. And? A pause. Rethva's fronds moved through 3 configurations.
The Covenant filing has been noted,
she said. Fleet Command is requesting a formal timeline for the Congress review process. Yara felt something in her chest settle, like a weight that had been positioned for a long time finding somewhere to rest. Mr. Grant can provide that timeline, she said. I will connect you. Commander, Rethva stopped. Her fronds were very still again, but not the way they had been before. This was a different kind of still. You are aware that this review process does not guarantee an outcome favorable to the Kaylee. No, Yara agreed. It does not. The claim may still be upheld. The extraction rights may still be awarded. They may be, she said, through a legal process, on a defined timeline, with 23 species watching and a complete public record of every communication, every demand, and every decision. She looked at Rethva directly. That is a different conversation than a courtesy window. You know that. Rethva looked at her for a long time. Then she said, Fleet Command is withdrawing the deadline pending review. The words arrived. Yara let them sit in the air for a moment, before she responded. I will note that in the broadband record, she said. Thank you, Commander Rethva. Rethva closed the channel. Yara sat back. Cole made a sound that was not quite a word but had the shape of one. She did not look at him. She opened the channel to Voss. He was still speaking, still naming towns, still describing bread. She waited for him to finish a sentence. Elder Voss, she said. He stopped. The Velkari have withdrawn the deadline, she said. He did not move for a moment. He sat very still at the wooden table with his hands folded in front of him. Outside the window, the blue-green sky moved. For now, he said. For now, she agreed. The review will take time. It may not go well. This is not over. No, he said. But my children are eating breakfast this morning. He looked at her through the screen. That is something. She thought about 61 names. She thought about Puret's 2 words and what they had cost. She thought about the archivist in his repository, adding a note to a corridor that had not existed before last year. It is something, she said. She kept the broadband open another hour. Then she filed a full mission report to Reyes with every timestamp, every document, every recorded transmission, and a note at the end that said, The Covenant has teeth. Someone needed to use them. We did. You are welcome, Reyes called back in 40 minutes. He looked like a man who had slept badly and received a number of very difficult messages in rapid succession, and had arrived at the end of that sequence, feeling something he could not comfortably name. You could not just patrol Sector 9, he said. I received a distress signal. You received a message from a non-member world. That was distressing, she said. He was quiet for a moment. Then, the Velkari ambassador to the Congress has filed a formal objection to your intervention.
I know. Grant is handling it.
The Congress Oversight Committee wants a full briefing. I know. I sent the report. Yara. He looked at her. 23 species were monitoring that broadband. 24 by the end, she said. He rubbed his face. You understand what you are doing? Yes. Every time you open that channel. I know, Marco. It changes what this is. It changes what humanity is, in the record, in the way everyone in this galaxy understands what we do and why. He looked at her seriously. That is not a small thing. No, she said. It is not. Are you all right with that? She thought about Voss with his hands folded at the wooden table. She thought about a bird crossing a blue-green sky. She thought about bread she had never tasted, in a town built by someone's great-grandmother. Yes, she said. I am all right with that. He looked at her for a long moment. Come home, he said. The council wants to talk to you. Tell them I am on my way. Tell them yourself, he said. I am tired. He cut the channel. She looked at the viewport. Caliph turned below her, blue-green and steady, 23 species still on frequency. A review process opened and a deadline withdrawn, and 5 warships moving slowly toward a new position that was not directly above 7 towns in the northern continent. Cole came to stand beside her. 24, he said. What? At the end, it was 24 species monitoring the broadband. He looked at the planet, not 23. She looked at him. The 24th logged in after Rethva withdrew the deadline, he said. After the whole thing was resolved. He paused. They just wanted to hear what happened. She turned back to the viewport. Somewhere in the Congress hub, Oliver Grant was filing paperwork. Somewhere in the 8th repository, an archivist was writing notes. Somewhere below her, Voss was eating something at a wooden table in a town built 300 years ago, and his children were eating breakfast. The review was not over. The cost was not paid. The galaxy was a long way from safe. But 24 species had listened. And one small world was still there to listen to. She thought that was enough for today. Tomorrow was a different question. She was already thinking about the answer. The Congress review took 40 days. Yara was not there for most of them. She was back on patrol, back in Sector 9, doing the work that did not make broadband transmissions, that did not add entries to archivist repositories, that simply existed. The daily presence of a ship that showed up and stayed, and checked in, and filed reports that most people in the council never fully read. She read all of them. Reyes made her brief the council in person, which meant 2 days on the Congress hub station, which was enormous, and climate-controlled to a temperature that suited 17 different species simultaneously, and therefore suited none of them particularly well. The council session was long. She had expected questions about the Mirith protocols, about the Velkari response, about the legality of her broadband use. They asked her about the bread. Specifically, a council member from the Threnny delegation had been monitoring the broadband at the time of Voss's transmission, and had heard him describe the bread made in the northern town, and she wanted to know if Yara had tasted it. She had not. You should, the Threnny representative said. Food is how you know a civilization. What a people grow and cook and share. That is the text the history books forget. She folded 2 of her 6-jointed arms. I thought about what that man said for 3 days. About the bread. Yara looked at her. So did I, she said. The rest of the session was what she had expected. Difficult, slow, complicated, full of people who had opinions about her methods, and no better suggestions for her circumstances. She sat through it. She answered every question honestly and completely. She did not apologize. Reyes sat at the end of the table through the whole session. He said very little. He had that look he got sometimes. The look she had first seen at Kepler. The look that meant he was watching something happen, and making the decision to let it happen, rather than intervene. She had never asked him about that look. She thought she might, someday. On the second day, the session ended and she went to find coffee in the hub station's Level 4 commissary, which served a version of coffee that was technically coffee, the way that a translated novel is technically the same book. Something lost, something different, but still carrying the shape of the thing. She was on her second cup when someone sat down across from her. She looked up. The man who sat across from her was not someone she had seen before. He was perhaps 50. Gray hair, cut short. A Congress civilian access badge. No military insignia, no organizational marker, just his name in small letters, and a department code she did not immediately recognize. His name was Nathan Hale. Commander Solis, he said. I hope I am not interrupting. You are, she said. What do you need? He did not seem bothered by the directness. He had the look of a person who was not bothered by much. I work in the Congress Intelligence Assessment Division, he said. Long-range threat modeling. I have been following your activities in Sector 9 for about 6 months. Should I be concerned? No, he said. I am not here to investigate you. I am here because your activities in Sector 9 have produced data that my division has been trying to obtain through formal channels for 3 years, and you have been producing it informally, as a side effect of doing your job. He put a small data chip on the table between them. I would like to discuss it with you. She looked at the chip. What kind of data? Velkari behavioral response data, he said. How they respond when challenged on individual claims, as opposed to when challenged on territorial claims. How their fleet command communication speed changes under different types of pressure. What makes them hesitate? He looked at her steadily. You have made them hesitate twice now, each time in a different way. The pattern is significant. She looked at him for a moment. You are building a model, she said. I am trying to, he said. I have been trying to for 3 years. The problem is that most of our historical data involves situations where the Valkyrie were not hesitating, situations where they were moving at full pace through a set of decisions they had already made. He paused. Your situations are different. They did not have their decisions already made. You introduced variables they had not budgeted for. She picked up her coffee, such as, the first variable, he said, is that you refuse to accept their framing. Every other species the Valkyrie have dealt with has, at some point, accepted that the Valkyrie version of events is the operating reality, the tier classification, the courtesy window, the arithmetic of force. He folded his hands. You do not accept it. You reframe it every time. And here is what my data shows. When you reframe it on the broadband, they have to respond to the reframe. They cannot simply proceed as if you had not spoken, because 20 or 30 species are watching, and the silence would be interpreted. She thought about Rethva. You are doing it again. The second variable, he continued, is the legal dimension, the covenant filing at Calith, the dispute documentation at the Halcyon Escort. You keep introducing formal legal standing into situations the Valkyrie have historically treated as above formality. He looked at her. The Valkyrie are a rules-based hierarchy. They have complex internal law. They understand what it means to be in violation of a formal process. The problem for them is that their own internal rules say you cannot simply ignore a valid legal objection, especially not in front of witnesses. So they are constrained by their own structure, she said. Yes. He leaned forward slightly. And here is the part that my division cannot model adequately, Commander, because it has never happened before in documented history at this scale. He looked at her seriously. The watching. The broadband. The 24 species. She waited. Species do not watch things, he said. Not like this. They receive diplomatic reports. They read Congress bulletins. They hear things secondhand, translated, filtered through official channels weeks after they happen. He picked up the data chip and turned it in his fingers. What you have done is create direct observation. 24 species watched, in real time, as a Valkyrie fleet, with 5 warships backed down from a single human ship, using legal filings and an open frequency. He put the chip back on the table. That is not a report. It is not a bulletin. It is an experience. She looked at him. And the species who experienced it, she said, are recalculating. Yes, he said. 12 of them, according to my data, have made internal policy changes in the 40 days since Calith. Not public announcements. Internal. Quiet shifts in how they respond to Valkyrie demands. New legal consultants hired. Old dispute filings dusted off and resubmitted. He paused. The Threnny delegation filed 7 disputes with the Congress arbitration body in the last 30 days. In the previous 10 years, they filed 2. She was quiet for a long moment. She thought about the Threnny representative asking about the bread. Food is how you know a civilization. She thought about the Draoxy in the 3rd corridor. Their extraordinary music. The silence where it used to be. Mr. Hale, she said. Nathan, he said. Nathan. What do you need from me? He slid the chip across the table. Access to your mission logs, he said. All of them. Not just the official reports. The full recordings. The bridge audio. The channel transcripts. He looked at her. I want to build a complete model of what you are doing. Because I think you are doing something that has not been done before, and I think that if I can understand it clearly enough to model it, I can help other commanders do it. She looked at the chip. She thought about Cole at his station, voice controlled, hands steady. She thought about Oliver Grant filing paperwork at midnight because someone had to use the Covenant's teeth. She thought about 1 ship, moving toward 5. The model, she said. When you build it, what do you call it? He considered. I have been calling it asymmetric presence, he said. The idea that one entity with the right variables can function as a significant counterweight to a much larger force if it changes the environment in which force is evaluated. She picked up the chip. We just call it showing up, she said. She took the chip. He almost smiled. She took her coffee back to her room and spent the evening going through the Caliph review documents that had arrived during the council session. The review board had found in favor of the Kali on the primary extraction claim. The Velkari demand for exclusive Corellium rights was ruled in violation of the Congress Resource Covenant. Voss sent a message. 2 sentences. In careful Congress standard. The bread is still here. Come eat it sometime. She saved the message. She did not know why she saved it. She saved it the way you save things that you might need later, that you cannot yet fully explain the value of, but that you know has value, the way you know a thing before you can say it. She went to sleep. In the morning, she sent a message to Cole. It said, "We are going back to Sector 9. I have something to tell you about what Nathan Hale told me. It changes how we work. Get the senior crew together for a briefing at 0700. Cole replied in 4 minutes. He said, "Already made the coffee." She looked at that message for a moment. Then she got up and went to the briefing. 47 days after the Caliph review resolution, a Velkari diplomatic delegation formally requested a meeting with the Galactic Congress Council. Not a demand, not a courtesy, a request. The distinction was not small. The Velkari had not formally requested a meeting with the Congress Council in 112 years. Every interaction in that period had been conducted on Velkari terms, at Velkari initiative, through Velkari channels. The Congress had sent delegations to them, not the reverse. Yara was in Sector 9 when the news came through, running a secondary patrol loop that Nathan Hale had suggested after looking at 3 months of her mission logs. He had identified a pattern in Velkari enforcement activity that suggested 3 specific waypoints were being used as staging areas for tributary collection runs. She had been checking them. The 3rd waypoint was quiet when she arrived. No Velkari ships, no enforcement action in progress, just open space, and a distant star, and Cole, marking the coordinates in the log. "Nothing here," he said. "Note the time," she said. "If it is quiet here, it means they moved the staging somewhere else. Find out where." He started checking. The news about the diplomatic request came through on the Congress General feed while he was working. She read it on the secondary screen. She did not say anything. She read it again. She had learned, after Mirith, after Caliph, that the things that looked like victory often had a longer shape than they first appeared. The Velkari withdrawing the Caliph deadline had not been a victory in the final sense. It had been a pause, a recalculation, a recognition that the arithmetic they were using was producing unexpected results and needed revision. A diplomatic request could mean many things. It could mean genuine recalculation of the kind the archivist had described, a species recognizing that a model it had relied on for centuries was producing decreasing returns, and that a new model was needed. It could mean strategic repositioning, a desire to formalize terms while they still held leverage, to create a framework that looked like compromise and functioned like consolidation. She did not know which it was. She did not assume. She sent a message to Reyes that said, "Saw the news. Do not send me to the delegation meeting." He replied, "I was going to send you to the delegation meeting." She replied, "I know, do not." He replied, "Why?" She replied, "Because if I am in that room, it becomes about me, about Mirith, about Caliph, about what one human commander did or did not do. I am not the point. The point is the pattern." She paused. "Send Grant. Send Hale. Send the Threnny representative who heard Voss talk about bread. Send people who can hold a process." She paused again. "I am better in Sector 9. Reyes did not reply for 20 minutes. Then, "The council will want you visible." "The council can see me from Sector 9, she said. "I am on the broadband. I am in the logs. I am in the mission reports. I do not need to be in a conference room to be visible." He did not reply for another 10 minutes. Then, "Fine, stay in Sector 9. But Yara," she waited, "do not blow anything up while we are in the meeting." She replied, "That depends entirely on what I find at these waypoints." He sent back a response that was not a word, but communicated clearly. She closed the channel and went back to the sensor board. Cole had found the staging area shift. It had moved to a new location, further out, deeper into the fringe, out of standard patrol range by a significant margin. Not impossible to reach, but not easy. She looked at the coordinates. She thought about what Hale had told her. The 12 species recalculating, the 7 Threnny dispute filings, the quiet shifts in how small things responded to large pressures. She thought about the rule in the Congress Permanent Record, the rule that some unnamed translation committee had written in plain language at the bottom of a formal notation about humanity. Never threaten humans. They do not calculate the odds. They just make you pay them anyway. She thought that was mostly accurate. The part that was missing, the part that nobody outside a few people on the Persistence Bridge had seen clearly yet, was that the not calculating was not carelessness. It was not recklessness, or wild courage, or the particular species-specific failure to properly evaluate risk that some Congress analysts had put in their reports. It was a decision. Made clearly. Made again. Every time. The decision that some costs could not be accepted in advance, that some losses could not be pre-approved, that some things had to be contested regardless of the arithmetic, because the alternative was to accept that the arithmetic was the final language, that force was the final argument, that the species with the most ships won not just the battle, but the right to define what winning was. That was what the Valkyrie had misread. Not courage, not irrationality. A different kind of math. She set a course for the new coordinates. Cole looked at the heading. That is a long way, he said. Yes. Beyond standard patrol range. Yes. I should log the course deviation. Yes, she said. Log it. Tell Reyes where we are going. Tell him we have a credible indicator of Valkyrie enforcement staging activity, and we are following it. He will ask for the source of the indicator. Tell him Nathan Hale. He will call Hale. I know, she said. It will take him 20 minutes. We will be well outside response range by then. Cole logged the course. He sent the message to Reyes. He did not say anything else for a few minutes. Then, Commander. Cole. When this is over, he said. When the meeting happens and the review resolves, and the pattern that Hale is modeling gets finished, and whatever comes next comes next. He paused. Are we going to be all right? She looked at the viewport. She thought about what all right meant from where they were standing. She thought about a galaxy that had a rule written into its permanent record now. A short rule, plainly stated, that had not existed 2 years ago, and existed now because something had happened that broke the model badly enough that somebody needed to write it down. Never threaten humans. She thought about what it meant that the rule existed. It meant the rule was necessary. It meant there were still species who did not know it, or who knew it and did not believe it, or who believed it and were testing whether belief was enough to make them hesitate before they acted. It meant the work was not finished. It was not going to be finished for a long time. But the record was there. The corridor was there. The 24 species who had listened were out there, recalculating, filing disputes, hiring legal consultants, sitting at tables and eating bread, and deciding, slowly, that the arithmetic they had been given was not the only arithmetic available. That was something. That was not everything. But it was something real, something that could not be unfiled or unheard or unwritten, something that had changed the shape of what was possible in a galaxy, where the Valkyrie had been defining what was possible for a very long time. I do not know, she said. It was honest. It was the most honest thing she could say. But we are moving in the right direction. Cole looked at the heading on the nav screen. The coordinates are in a pretty rough part of the fringe, he said. Yes. Standard patrol ships do not usually go that far out. No. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I will make sure engineering checks the drive before we get there. Good, she said. Tell Tomas. Tomas will say everything is regulation. Tomas is lying, she said. Tell him anyway. Cole went to tell Tomas. She stayed on the bridge. The star field outside the viewport shifted as they changed heading. New stars came into view. Old ones moved past the edge of the frame. The drive hummed its steady hum, the sound she had lived inside for years, the sound of something that had been pushed past its expected limits and rebuilt itself, and was still moving. She pulled up the mission log. She added a single line at the bottom of the day's entry, below the coordinates and the heading, and the legal reference numbers, and the formal language that reports required. The line said, "We are still here." She saved it. She closed the log. The Persistence moved into the deep fringe, steady and unhurried, one ship in a very large amount of space, heading toward whatever was waiting to be found there. Outside, the stars were countless. The broadband was still open.